Hi guys, it's Luetin here, and welcome to a new show we're going to be creating, which is called From the Heart, and it's going to be starring myself and my good friend Heartless, and we're going to be talking about gaming in general, gaming culture, anything that's related to that, anything that we feel is interesting, and basically just talking around the subjects of the day, or anything that we feel is interesting, kind of off topic, on topic, current, old and new. So Heartless is going to bring us our first topic that we've thought of today, so do you want to introduce that one?
It's how do you feel about achievements slash trophies? Do you think that they bring more to games, or do you think it takes away from it?
Yeah, and I mean, achievements and stuff, I don't know. I've never been on par with this, but some people really, really do. I don't think it really takes away from games because it's kind of there and you notice it happening. But I've never been one that's particularly excited about it. Do you? Do you end up sort of chasing after them? Do you think, oh my God, I've got to do this one, this one, this one, or do it kind of just you let it happen as it goes along?
Well, with me, the reason I was saying like, do you think it takes away from it is because I know that some people purely play games because they want to get achievements or whatever,
Mm.
even though it doesn't really do anything. But yet, if they don't get achievements, like when I was playing Doom 3 the other day, I noticed myself doing it. Like I'd been playing it for 4 hours or something and I hadn't got one achievement. And I was like, screw this, turn that off.
Really?
So yeah, I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. But
Do you think it's a little bit of
then
a case of kind of got to catch them all? Is it that kind of thing?
a little bit like that. I
Yeah.
mean, I've never usually been like that, but I was being kind of greedy with it. But then I realized, just put it back on, just keep playing it because, it's just points. I mean, I know you've got that kind of following where you need to, yeah, what if you completed this game, have you 100%ed this? Yes, I got 1,000 gamer score on Dead Space the other day and I felt achieved, but it didn't actually earn me anything. But the good thing about it was that it made me play Dead Space a lot more, and I really like that game, and that's what I like about achievements.
I think I sometimes wonder whether this is a slightly new mentality and whether I just am a bit old fashioned because this whole kind of it ties in a lot with what I'm often talking about from stats. People talking about stats in FPS games mainly, but it's kind of on the same level really, where people it becomes much more about the numbers than
Yeah.
actually what you're doing in game. And to me, like, I mean, the way I've always thought of games is that it's like a character experience, and it's like when I'm playing through stuff or I'm putting videos up on YouTube, and people go, "Oh, you've missed this, or you didn't do this the right way." I'm like,
Yeah.
There is no right way, I'm doing it the way that I feel it should be played out in the game, or the way I want my character to do it. And the other thing is there's so much emphasis often on characters in game now, and it kind of annoys me sometimes. Sorry, this is slightly off topic, but it kind of ties in.
Mhm.
The whole sort of thing of like your character is really. You have no influence over it. When I think of stuff like Red Dead Redemption or whatever, and the character, he's really got a strong narrative, and there's not really much. LA Noir is the same thing. He's got like a really strong presence, so you almost feel kind of detached. Therefore, when it comes to stuff like stats, trophies, achievements, that stuff to me is all kind of by the by. It's sort of like little bits on the side, but I don't care. Like I don't care about 100%ing things.
No.
Because that's not what I play the game for. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that everybody plays games for different reasons, and some people are going to care about that a lot, some people are not. Does it take away from the game though? I don't think it necessarily does, but I think it could do if developers and games started sort of tailoring the whole kind of dynamic of the game in that direction. But what's your
Yeah.
kind of experience of it from that point of view? Anyone that you've spoken to playing these kind of things, do you think it really detracts from it, or does it add to it in a way? I don't
Well,
feel like it adds to it, but do you think so?
it's difficult to explain. The only way I can explain my experiences with it is if I sort of went through me with Dead Space, for instance. Like first time in all games, I play it and I purely play the game. Like I don't focus on the achievements at all. If I get achievements while I'm progressing, then cool, why not? But it's all about the game for me. But then once I've completed it, I'll either I'll look at the achievement list, see if there's any ones that are easily achievable, and I'll maybe go for it.
Mm.
But if not, I'll just sort of leave it, and then it will sit for a few months or something like that, and I won't play the game. But then a while later, I'll think, oh, I haven't got many achievements on that. I'll go back and if I can't be bothered to play one of my new games or start a new game, um, necessarily spend my time focusing on a story. I'll just sort of, faff about, like, going through Dead Space and completing it on Impossible. I mean, it was really difficult, but I played through the game several times again to get to the point where I could, get the complete or upgrade all weapons and stuff like that. And it just made me appreciate Dead Space 1 for what it is now, especially since the other two have came out. Replaying the first one really made me remember how good it was in comparison.
Yeah, they are quite different strongly, but I think like what you're saying is right, that it's kind of basically it's giving the game more longevity. So
Yeah.
it's increasing the replay value by giving extra stuff. And again, I think that's a new thing when you look at older titles. Older titles would often be like the game, and that's it. And there's once you've completed it, it's done. There's nothing more to it. Whereas a lot of new games tend to have many kind of levels of how you can play it. They have maybe a bit of multiplayer, a bit of single player, and so on. And then they have kind of these extra achievements, trophies, and bits and pieces, extra little side quests, things that you can do, other alternative ways that you can replay it. And
that's the one that I was thinking of. Dark Souls. I've been
right, yeah.
replaying I've been replaying my own game on that one, my personal game, and first time I played through, and I did the I got the Link the Fire ending, but looking through the achievements, there were so many there's so many covenants that I missed because I either didn't have the required faith level, or I didn't go to a certain place, or I didn't do something in the right order. But then because of this, I've restarted a few times, and because I wanted to pick up these couple of achievements, it's made me experience more of the game that I hadn't seen before, and there was so much in the game that I'd missed.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
now I've seen all of it because of that.
I think I should point out, though, that as well, that there are plenty of older games who did have that kind of... one thing I'm thinking of is kind of alternative endings. Often when you play through the game, you get a different alternative ending, so that would be a kind of strong replay value for people. They'd get one ending and they'd think, oh, well, that's fine, but I want to find out what the others are, so they'll play it through. But
Yeah.
I think an interesting thing to point out is that it's very, very time intensive, to play through a whole game again just to get an alternative ending. I think that's a bit hardcore for some people. A lot of people would think, wow, I'll do it one more time, but after that it's a bit much to kind of keep. You'd have to really love a game to kind of keep pushing it. And
I was a bit sneaky with that in Singularity.
Yeah.
That's got 3 possible endings: a good, a bad, and a sort of neutral. Or is it really bad? I don't know. But I saved it just before the end, and then you can play all 3 separately, which is nice.
Oh, okay. I think some games, though, would kind of require...
they do.
A more kind of non-linear sort of, you have to kind of do other things along the way, don't you, in order to kind of the outcome for the ending. But I think the important kind of link with that sort of aspect is that when you have this kind of alternate ending, which is slightly more of an older style thing, but people, they still do it, like Heavy Rain would do it and things. And I liked in Heavy Rain the fact that you could... did you play that, by the way?
Yeah, I was really disappointed by my ending for it. So.
Well, I got pissed off with one of the characters along the way. I deliberately killed him. So it was the police guy. He got on my nerves. And
Agent Nam Jaden, that one.
Yeah, we were at the what was it? The scrapyard, and he was in the car, and like he was fumbling to get out, and I wasn't doing it very well. And I was just like, do you know what? I've had enough of you, mate. Just leave it. So I just let him be crushed.
Well, my one was. Spoiler alert. Anyway, what's the woman's name?
Oh, God,
can you remember?
No.
Well,
That's how memorable
the one who always took off her clothes for no reason.
Yeah.
Not right near the end. Like it was really near the end where Scott Wajimajiggy's apartment's burning down.
Yep.
She's having a fit in there, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. But then I missed my finger slipped off of the L2, and she tripped over a bin and burnt alive, and I lost like the good ending because of that.
Oh no. You see, this
because
is
of
a
a bin.
Yeah, exactly. But I think this is where achievements and trophies come in, is that they can be kind of like you don't have to go all the way through the game to achieve certain things. Now, obviously, there are some you may have to do, but it's kind of like more of a progressive thing. You can go back through and you can pick little bits and pieces up. I mean, one of my favourite games that I've been playing on this channel right now is Pixel Junk Shooter. And what I really find with that is that unlike most games, I think because it's a slightly more old school arcade title where you have a little spaceship and you fly around. If you haven't seen that, by the way, just check some of the videos below on this channel and you'll see what I mean. And you fly on the little spaceship and you collect miners and you collect gems. And then when you get to the end of the level, it tells you if you've got all the miners and if you've got all the gems. And very often you'll miss like maybe 1 or 2. And that kind of thing is like, it kind of grates on me because I want to complete each little level. And also, it's not like, it doesn't feel like a major chore, you know, it's just kind of like you'd have to play through the level. I mean, each level's maybe 10-15 minutes, so it's not massively long. So from that point of view, I'm down with it. But when it comes to people saying, oh, I've got to do a game 100%, that's the kind of thing that grates on me. Like,
I don't strive for completion.
No, where you kind of pick up every potion, you talk to every character, you do every side quest, you do every little thing, all the little secret things. I mean,
there's
as well.
some that are so ridiculous, like the Crackdown ones, like collecting 3,000 energy orbs and stuff. Like,
yeah, some are silly. Yeah, some of them are absolutely ridiculous. And I think there's another interesting, you know, we've been talking about this mainly within a single player context, but I know that with you know, one of my main games that I play, so Battlefield 3, there has been a lot of kind of uncertainty over the kind of achievements that they put into that game and whether they detract from it. And the multiplayer aspect of games comes into these sort of things here. And it's the whole sort of, if you're in a multiplayer environment rather than a single player, if you're a single player, it doesn't matter. You know, you can do whatever you want and it doesn't affect anybody else. But if you're in a multiplayer environment and you're trying to, you know, you're trying to play the game, you're trying to win a round of whatever it may be, sports or FPS or an RTS game, or, you know, whatever. The achievements, whether or not they interfere with other people's experience, and I think that's a kind of point to make with the whole achievements thing is, you know, everyone else is trying to just get on with the game, and there's some guy running around with some obscure weapon trying to get sort of, you know, 200 headshots with it or something, and he's completely sort of a non-entity within the situation of everyone else. And there's been a lot of complaints from people.
I really, really like when I see, you know, half of the achievements in a game taken up by multiplayer achievements. It really grates on me like terribly, because like there's nothing I loathe more than if you're playing a game like, what was that one I was playing, Wolfenstein. It's like you know, get 100 kills in Wolfenstein multiplayer, or come first 10 times in Wolfenstein multiplayer deathmatch, and like you go on multiplayer and nobody plays anymore. It's like old games like that when they've got multiplayer achievements, or new ones as well. If you're not going to play them, I mean, I personally, I don't really play a lot of multiplayer. I will play some, you know, Call of Duty, or I will play Battlefield, or, you know, I'll play Left 4 Dead, things like that, like ones that are supposed to be co-opted. But you know, as far as like other ones where you're not really going to do it much, then it kind of, I don't know why, but it just gets to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, it kind of, we can go slightly sideways with this. I was actually thinking this week about the whole issue of actually, you know, single player games, should they have a multiplayer aspect? Should they, I mean, basically I'm saying, should games focus more on one element? It's not so common now that you get games that are just purely multiplayer, especially when it comes to sort of AAA titles. They tend to not sort of, you know, they want to hedge their bets and they want to have a little bit of everything. And this has been happening for quite a while now in gaming. For a long time, obviously, we didn't sort of have that aspect, but now because everything's online, it's very easy for them to incorporate multiplayer into the whole setup. But I often question whether it slightly detracts from the main game, or whether you know, whether one is kind of, something is always compromised, because the developers often have limited resources, limited time, so they end up sort of either not fully, you know, producing the best single player campaign that they could, or the multiplayer doesn't benefit, it's almost tacked on or whatever. It's a very, very difficult thing. You need to have a good, you know, resource, or a very, very capable development team in order to kind of build a game where the single player and the multiplayer is definitely on par. I think it's a really difficult balance to strike up, and it's not very often that's done very successfully. But I would like to see a little bit more confidence. You know, I'd like to see more, or a little bit more cleverness. But I think from what I've seen this week from other people commenting, that's one thing that people are really adamant about, is they just want quality. They just want one thing to be really strong. And I think bringing it back to kind of achievements and trophies and things like this, again, like you say, could it detract? It could detract if they start focusing on other elements that aren't really relevant to the main storyline. They start thinking, well, you know, we've got this good story, but, you know, we have to think of the achievements for people. We've got to think of, you know, what are, you know,
help the multiplayer people. Did you see my Twitter post?
Which one?
I did a Twitter post, right? Basically, I was playing a game and then I logged off to the Xbox dashboard, and like in the bottom corner, quite big, there's Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider multiplayer, and I watched the video and I was just like, why have you done this?
Yeah,
I know that because they've done that, there's going to be something that they could have added to the single player that I would have
exactly.
really enjoyed, and they've not bothered. Like, but people should know when multiplayer shouldn't be put in, like with things like I don't even know, but there's a point like when Skyrim's. Oh, sure, I would like to play Skyrim, with a friend if I was going to co-op it and that, but the fact that they've spent so long working on it has made it the good game that it is. Sure, it's a bit buggy in that, but that's because it's so huge. But
Yeah,
imagine the bugs in it if they'd have spent half the time developing a multiplayer or a
yeah,
co-op or whatever. But
exactly.
Dark Souls, even though most of the time it doesn't work, I think that the way they've set that up, that you can summon random people, and that is a bit like Journey, like you can summon just anybody the line about to help you with bosses and that.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a good one.
So, I mean, basically, I think that achievements and trophies are all well and good, but they should always try to balance it in terms of thinking about how the game impacts on people. So they should think, okay, are these things more of a distraction than actually just a little extra thing? They shouldn't become the main focus of the game. They shouldn't have too strong a role. They should literally just be a little side thing. It should always be the case that it can be, with these kind of things, you can take it or leave it. It shouldn't impact too much on how your experience actually is, so that if you're the kind of player who literally just wants to enjoy the game, these things don't become a hassle. Right, let's move on to the next topic for today, and this is quite a big topic, so we'll try and talk fairly concisely about it. It'll be some things that we'll definitely be able to talk about on future videos. But basically, we're looking at the new consoles, and obviously the new consoles coming out, we've got the Xbox and the PS. But the main thing really we're going to be talking about today is the issue with the Xbox, which has come out and said that basically you're going to always need an online connection in order to play its games. Any games, that's single player, the kind of games that you would normally be able to play offline, you won't be able to do that. You will have to be online. You will always need an internet connection in order to be online. The other thing that goes hand in hand with that is that effectively secondhand games are going to be completely taken out of the Xbox. That's confirmed now. For the PlayStation, it's not been announced. However, they are going to be doing some announcements this week. That's not as of today when we've done this video, but they will be talking about that. Now, there has been a bit of kind of speculation with the PlayStation when it comes to these kind of things. People are saying, well, will Sony go in the other direction with that? Will they allow pre-owned games? Are Sony going to kind of exploit that hole where Xbox have left, the fact that people really, really enjoy being able to buy pre-owned titles? Or are they basically going to sort of be on board and completely cut that out now? I think they would be in a position to do that because I'm pretty sure Sony, as much as Xbox and Microsoft, dislike pre-owned titles because in essence it kind of does lose them revenue in some ways.
It might be because it might be the reason you need to have an internet connection is because they're trying to constantly look up the CD key or something. I don't know how it works, but like maybe they're trying to stop piracy that way or something.
I think
not legit copies.
It is. Well, I don't think about piracy, but I think it is to do with that. Yeah, it's to do with kind of recognizing the game that you're playing, so that, for example, because if you think about it, they wouldn't have any other way of doing it. Other than it's somehow kind of burning that information into your system when you use it. I think that's the idea, is that you kind of, that must be, I don't have any detailed information because they haven't really given any very, very detailed information, but it is confirmed that you will need to be online.
It just doesn't make sense because like if you've got to be online, like what if you were to, I don't know, take your console on a caravan holiday, for instance, like, and you plugged it in, want to play one of my games, oh, I'm not connected to the internet, I can't play my game. And then on the flip side as well, if they're saying if it is to, stop you from pirating or, getting these pre-owned titles or whatever, if they're stopping that completely, does that mean it'll also stop it if, for instance, like one of my friends has played their game at home and then they want to bring it over to your house and say, "I'll check this game out," but then it says, "Oh no, this has been played on another console. You must have bought this as a pre-owned." You won't be able. You wouldn't be able to do that. It will only. That's just defeating the whole social aspect of gaming. I mean, like I remember the days when you used to come around where all your friends like playing Time Splitters 3 on the PS2, and you had split screen and all that. You rarely get split screen anymore, and now they're also defeating the fact that you can bring your other games around other people's houses as well. I mean, if that's actually going to do that, I mean, that's going to really
Yeah, I think it's bad.
cause some problems.
I think it's going to piss people off, but the problem is that it's one of these things where if all, and this is why I say Sony haven't come out and said that they're going to do this yet, but I feel that they are, and the reason that I feel that they are is because if they all sort of go along it together, then there is no real kind of option there. People are just going to be lumped with it. It's going to be a case of do this or just stop gaming. And, that's the kind of problem that you're going to have. I mean, there was this was from Edge magazine this week, my little quote here. And from the article they wrote, it says, ultimately, Microsoft has asked itself a simple question. Who wants to play games on a next generation Xbox and yet doesn't have access to the internet? The answer is not enough to make a considerable difference. And I think that's basically what they've decided is that, for the amount of people that they feel are going to be, irritated by this is imbalanced by the people that they know are just going to go, well, that's really annoying, but I'm still going to play. So that's pretty much what it comes down to is they're just playing the numbers.
I think it's really irritating.
I think it's a really frustrating and kind of a slap in the face to people that have supported them for a long time,
It's just a horrible thing to do. I mean, like, I'm fortunate enough to have like quite a good job and whatever, and I can afford to go out and get a game on release day. If I want it particularly, but like the rest of the time, I'll go to CEX or something, or I don't know, the pre-owned section of game and buy some tat that I can just sort of play on an off chance that I can't be bothered to play another game. Whereas, I won't be able to do that now. And also, if you've got, like some of my friends, they can't afford to buy titles even when they've been out for ages. I mean, Call of Duty and stuff like that, they're still 40 quid now and they've been out for ages. So, they're probably just never going to be able to have these things. And what's going to happen to rentals as well, like Love Film and that? Are they going to cut a deal with them, or are they just going to completely take away the whole new release titles on there as well?
I can't imagine how they would do it. I think, as far as I could understand it, that would go as well. I've got no idea how else they would get around it. But I think we need to really, we don't need to panic too much about this. Just sort of see how things pan out. I mean, one other little quote here, which was kind of good. As I say, Sony haven't come out and said what they're going to do about this, but it does say here that, they're saying Sony has left its own second-hand console game market as it exists today. It would be an easy PR win in the next gen console thing, and I think that's so true. I mean, that's the thing is, personally, I feel like Sony must go in the same direction. I hope they won't, but I feel like they will. But if they didn't, it's so true. It would be an easy PR win for them. I mean, if you can't play secondhand games on the Xbox, and they say, well, you can on a PlayStation, not for the majority, but for a lot of people, I think that would be quite a tipping point. People would go, well, I've got to choose between my next console and I think it would be a big choice for people to make. So
I think it's going to be a huge mistake as far as everything goes, because games now, when they come out, they cost anywhere from 35 to 45, 50 if you're buying a good edition of it or whatever, and plus DLC and all that. But you think how much it's going to be on the next console? They're probably going to bump it up to probably 60 or something per game, maybe
you don't
50. Know. I don't know, but even if it, like, who's got the money?
Well, I mean, it's true, but one thing that I always say is that when my work colleagues or people, friends, and they always say, how much do games cost now? And you say, oh, well, a new game will cost you £40, £45, whatever. I mean, it can be as low as 30, depending on what the title is and where you get it, etc. Do you pre-order, etc., etc. But they always go, wow, that's a lot of money. And you go, well, yeah, it is. But I'm going to play the game for the next 6 months. And I always think of it like this. How much should you pay for a DVD for a fairly new title? £10? And then how many times do you watch that film in the next 6 months? Once, twice, maybe? Yeah. How many times did you play a game that costs you 50 quid between now and the next 6 months? Possibly multiple times a week, depending on what title it was that you were buying, and all this kind of stuff. So in my mind, yes, games are expensive, but you get a hell of a lot more usage out of them compared to kind of other media that you would buy. Even music, unless you sort of really love something, you're listening to it every day. But I don't find when you buy sort of music for a certain amount of money that you listen to it endlessly for like the rest of the year. When it comes down to these next-gen consoles, we do really need some more information. Whilst it's been kind of confirmed, these things, they're kind of still sketchy on the details, and I think as we go through the year, more and more details will obviously come out about these things. But I think they are kind of the whole spectrum of gaming is changing in a really big way, and this is just one aspect of it.
No.
I think it's really naive and short-sighted of them to think that it's just a given that everybody has internet connection for their titles now. They just don't. I mean, not everyone has a stable internet connection either.
Yeah,
I mean,
what if it drops? Will it do what Dark Souls does and throw you out of the game?
yeah, I mean, for example, I was playing Far Cry 3 recently, and it was for 2 or 3 days, their side of things. It wasn't my connection. It was actually their server side was having an issue. But because you have to be online to kind of connect to their sort of stat thing, so I think what it is with Far Cry, when you play it, it kind of real time relates your kind of stats or info. It comes back to the whole achievements thing. Actually, this is a very good link, because it kind of it does interfere with your game. The whole kind of achievement stats thing. They're kind of updating it so that you can see in real time your friends, like how they're doing, what they've achieved in the game. So it pops up when people have done new achievements. However, because their server was being a bit tetchy, every time I paused the game, it would try to connect to their server, and it couldn't. And then it would just literally freeze the game, and I had to restart the PS. And the worst part of it was it wasn't even that I was going into stats or anything. All I was doing was pressing start to bring up the menu so that I could craft items or whatever. And then it would bring up the menu, and then it would start to connect, and then it would freeze. So I couldn't even make items. I couldn't select equipment. I couldn't look at my map. I couldn't do anything. And I was like, this is utterly stupid.
That must have been terrible, considering you spend like most of your time in the blooming crafting screen and that. So if you're constantly switching back and forth, that's terrible. Do you remember that other issue from a while ago with a PS where it couldn't sync trophies or something, and you couldn't play any games because it couldn't find trophy information?
I don't remember that one, but that sounds very annoying.
Terrible. It was. It was exactly when Heavy Rain came out, and I bought it on, I think, like the 4th day or something when it came out. And I put the disc in and then loaded it up, and it sort of got to about 56% or something, and then stopped and said can't find trophy information, returning to the home screen. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And then like I looked it up, and everybody was going, this is balls.
It's a worrying kind of trend that they feel they're going in this direction. I just think they're kind of, I don't know. I sometimes wonder where these bloody developers come in. Well, not developers. It's bigger than that. But
those corporate big heads.
Yeah, corporations with their money and their big buildings.
I shake my fist at them.
Suits, yeah. But I just wonder sometimes where they're going, where they're thinking. I think there's a bit too much focus grouping going on. You know what I mean? Like
focus groups with people who don't know what they're on about. Yeah,
it really is. It's frustrating as hell. There are some other things to note as well, but again, they get slightly more technical, so I'm not going to go into all the technical stuff, mainly because I don't know what I'm talking about. But but one thing that's kind of interesting is that, as I said, the PS is looking at changing its kind of its makeup, basically. The Sony feel that it was a mistake to make the PS3 so esoteric, apparently, in its architecture, which basically means that it was kind of difficult for developers to work with in terms of the system makeup. So now with the PS4, they're going to be looking to try and make it a little bit more easy to kind of create games for, to get involved with. But it says, importantly, this is also from Edge, it says, importantly, Sony is encouraging coders to get closer to the metal than is currently possible on the next Xbox. It says Microsoft's development environment is more ordered, with studios going to be forced to work with only approved libraries. So it just feels like, again, they're kind of locking things down, is the kind of general feeling. They're locking down people on the buying end of things. They're locking down developers. They're trying to control everything. I think a very good analogy would be that if Microsoft are starting, if the direction they're moving in is to try and, keep hold of something so tight, I think they're in danger of either breaking it because they're holding onto it so tight, or it actually kind of slipping through their fingers, because they're trying to over control things, and I think it's not the good direction to go. They should be kind of embracing the community, working with the community, or the Microsoft, the Xbox community, rather than trying to dictate to them, this is how you're going to play our stuff if you like it or not, which seems to be, to me, where they're coming from.
It's just a dangerous way that it's going. Since gaming's become more mainstream, things somewhat seem to be going downhill as far as privacy, corporations, and all this. They just seem to be, like you said, locking everything down and making sure, this game is better with Connect, so you've got to shout stuff at your TV, and like this game, you've got to have an internet connection to do it, otherwise it'll f up or whatever. It just it's getting stupid.
They're telling people how they
Yeah,
should
they're telling
play.
people to enjoy their games. Like if I want to play my GameCube, I'll stick in like Resident Evil 3 and then I can play it all day. I don't need Microsoft telling me, actually, well, you can't actually do that at the moment because we're busy screwing things up on our side, and you don't need that.
I think I'll be hanging on to my old systems so that
Yeah,
I've got
I know
something
what
to
that's
play.
like when I got my new PC, and the guy that I bought it from, like the builder, he forgot to send the wireless adapter with it, so like I had to wait like an extra week or whatever for it, and but it's all right now. But yeah, what you were saying as well about the ISPs, like I've upgraded to that Infinity or whatever now, but before my internet would just drop for no reason whatsoever, and it sometimes happens now with MSN. I know MSN's going soon, but like MSN can just kill your internet connection. So what happens then? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, they haven't even said either whether it affects its kind of, how well the game's going to run as well. I mean, this is the deal. Like, what happens if you have bad internet or good internet? What happens if you have like 3 meg download or whether you have 50? Is that going to affect it in any way? Will you see any kind of spiking in terms of, the game connecting? Will it cause any kind of frame rate lagging, because the game is trying to constantly check? I would imagine probably not. But these are all kind of unanswered questions. They haven't really come out and said it. And I think there's a real danger that when you have these kind of I mean, this is the important point is that it is confirmed, right? They have said that this is going to be a requirement, all right? But they haven't really given more information. And I think it's dangerous to kind of release a little bit of information because then people just start speculating and going, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? Exactly as we are doing right now because we don't have any more information. If Microsoft had come out and said, well, you're going to have to do this, but don't worry because of this, 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 and this, people would go, oh, that's actually kind of reasonable. But to just come out and say this and then everyone's like, what? Yeah,
it is dangerous. I mean, the other day, this is what I was trying to get at a second ago, but I completely lost my train of thought. I heard it was when I was talking about your internet drops. If I heard that when you put your disc in and like how you get day one updates now, I've heard that you'll get day one updates, but it like copies something to your drive that you need to get it to work, whether it be the online key or whatever. But what if you don't have that? I mean, does that completely negate the fact that you have the game? Or what if it's in the middle of downloading it and your internet drops and maybe an error happens or whatever? It's things like that as well. It's these things they got to think about. If they're gonna make things like this, they need to really think. Otherwise, it's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, and I think there's loads of other bits and pieces that to take note of. Like I can see some other info that I read this week saying that, well, for one thing, that the new Xbox will come shipped with Kinect, so you don't get to choose anymore. It's you're having it whether you bloody like it or not. Yeah, it's a bit more money probably going to be tapped on when you pick that up. Yeah. The other thing is that finally the HD DVD format that the Xbox was using up to now, that's gone. They've conceded defeat. They've conceded defeat to Sony. So no more extra discs for Xbox players. It'll be Blu-ray all the way, which I'm sure people will be very pleased about. But yeah, I mean, they're basically the discs are going to ship with. It says here activation codes. And that's why, they'll have no value beyond their initial use because they have activation codes. So once it's the same with any game with an activation code system. Once it's connected to yours, that's it. You can't take it to anywhere. You can't send it anywhere. And that is what it's going to be, guys. So, and I really hope they have the foresight to kind of take this opportunity and say, yeah, we're going to do this. And I think they would gain a lot of respect from the gaming community for doing that. I cannot see any positivity coming out from Microsoft. It's just going to piss people off really badly. And it could severely affect their sales as well. If Sony go the other way, it could really be the nail in the coffin for the kind of Microsoft side of things. And as far as I know as well, the company has not been doing as well recently as well. That's the...
What, Xbox or Sony?
Yeah. I think Microsoft came out and said that, or I read that they had been making like a loss with that sort of things. But that's not confirmed, guys. That's literally just off the top of my head. I did read it somewhere, I don't know where, so don't take that as set in stone or anything.
Yeah, my one was speculation as well. From like I read it on a forum or something like that. There was a
That's always
topic about it. Like I don't want any YouTube experts coming along and go, actually, Steve, because it was just literally on a forum. Somebody said like, yeah, I saw that there's going to be a day one update that's going to activate your game, and that'll be it.
So guys, that's been our first episode of From the Heart. A few bits and pieces to think about, achievements, titles. What do you think about this kind of stuff? And really, do you feel like achievements and trophies, do they negatively impact the game? Think of, like I say, with the Far Cry stuff, where, I mean, that was a really good example that I kind of came in late with, that the trophy achievement system, because they've decided to make it sort of live updating, so it's required to kind of connect to their own system. If that screws up, it actually then starts affecting your single player game, because like I say, I couldn't load the game. It would freeze out because it was trying to connect and it couldn't. And definitely when it comes to the whole Xbox PS4 issue, we want to know sort of, what do you think about this? Do you think it's going to really be a devastating blow to gaming in general? Do you think it's the right way to go? Do you think it's the right way to go in terms of stopping people getting cheap games and therefore perhaps putting more money back into development of games? That's one positive way to look at it, I suppose. We'll be having some more From the Heart coming out very soon. Thanks for watching.